Three AI giants. One brutal question. If you could only use one AI for the rest of 2026, which one actually deserves to be open in your browser right now? Because here's what nobody tells you. These tools have stopped competing on intelligence. They're now competing on something much harder to measure. Fit. ChatGPT became the all-rounder. Claude became the thinking machine. Gemini became the productivity layer for half the planet. And they all claim to be the best. So today, we're not running benchmarks. We're running real tests. Voice and conversation. Practical daily usefulness. Free plan value. The challengers nobody's talking about enough. And a final, honest verdict. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which AI fits your life. And the answer genuinely surprised me. Back in 2023, everyone was just impressed that AI could write a decent email. In 2024, the question became, okay, but which one is smarter? In 2026, that question is almost irrelevant. Here's why. These models have gotten close enough in raw intelligence that the differences are mostly at the edges. What separates them now is ecosystem, personality, consistency, and workflow fit. Think of it like smartphones. The iPhone and Android debate isn't really about specs anymore. It's about which world you want to live in. AI is the same. ChatGPT is OpenAI's bet on being everything to everyone. Claude is Anthropic's bet that quality of thinking matters more than quantity of features. Gemini is Google's bet that the AI that knows your whole digital life wins. And all three bets have merit. So instead of asking, which AI is smartest, ask yourself, what do I actually need an AI to do? That's the frame for everything we're about to cover. Let's start with the thing most people notice first. How does it feel to talk to these things? ChatGPT. ChatGPT's voice mode is genuinely impressive. The interruption handling is smooth. The pacing feels natural. And OpenAI has clearly spent a lot of time on emotional range. It modulates tone depending on what you're talking about. Ask it something casual and it loosens up. Ask it something serious and it tightens. For most people, this is the easiest AI to just talk to. It's the iPhone of AI assistants. Polished, predictable, reliable. The downside? Sometimes it overshoots. It can feel like it's performing helpfulness rather than actually being helpful. A little too upbeat, a little too eager. If you've ever had a customer service rep who was too friendly, you know exactly what I mean. Claude. Claude sounds different. It's calmer, more measured, less performative. If ChatGPT is the enthusiastic startup founder, Claude is the professor who actually knows the subject deeply and doesn't need to sell you on it. For nuanced conversations, the kind where you're actually trying to think something through, Claude is exceptional. It doesn't rush to an answer. It considers. And that quality shows in the output. The trade-off is energy. Claude can feel slower and less dynamic than ChatGPT, especially for quick back-and-forth exchanges. It's built for depth, not speed. Gemini. Gemini's voice experience is fine, but Gemini's real conversation strength isn't personality, it's context. Because Gemini knows your Gmail, your calendar, your drive. So when you ask it something like, "What do I have going on this week?" or "Summarize that document I was working on yesterday," it actually knows. That's a completely different kind of useful. It's less like talking to a person, and more like talking to someone who has actually read your files. For a lot of professionals, that's going to matter more than personality. Round 1. Verdict. Pure conversation feel, ChatGPT wins. Thoughtful, nuanced discussion, Claude wins. Context-aware productivity chat, Gemini wins. All right. This is the one that actually matters. Not which AI scores best on a math test. Which one makes your actual day better? ChatGPT's biggest strength is that it's genuinely good at almost everything. Writing? Strong. Coding? Solid across most languages. Research? Decent, especially with web browsing enabled. Image generation with DALL-E? Integrated and fast. Custom GPTs? Still one of the most underused features in AI. You can build a custom version of ChatGPT tuned for specific tasks. Your writing style, your business niche, your workflow. And it remembers that context every time. That's a big deal for people who use AI daily. The weakness is depth. For genuinely complex analytical tasks, long documents, intricate reasoning, nuanced writing, ChatGPT can feel a little surface level. It gets you 80% of the way there fast, but that last 20% sometimes requires something different. Claude is where you go when the task actually requires thinking. Send it a 50-page contract and ask for the 3 clauses most likely to cause problems. Give it a full code base and ask why it's breaking. Hand it 3 conflicting research papers and ask for a synthesis. Claude handles all of that better than any other model right now. Its context window is enormous, and more importantly, it actually uses that context intelligently. It doesn't just summarize, it reasons. Writers who use Claude regularly will tell you something interesting. The output sounds less like AI. There's a texture to it, a specificity, a point of view. That's not an accident. Anthropic has invested heavily in making Claude's writing feel like it came from a person who actually cares about what they're saying. The limitation is ecosystem. Claude doesn't generate images. It doesn't have native voice mode at the same level. It doesn't plug into your Google Drive or your calendar. It's a powerful specialist in a world that increasingly rewards generalists. Gemini's pitch is simple. Google already owns half your digital life. Gemini just makes that half smarter. If you live in Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Meet, and Drive, and most professionals do, Gemini becomes deeply useful in ways that ChatGPT and Claude simply can't match. It can pull context from your emails to help you draft a reply. It can reference a Google Doc you haven't opened in a month. It can summarize a meeting and add action items directly to your calendar. That level of integration is a genuine competitive advantage. Gemini's deep research feature is also worth highlighting. It doesn't just give you a paragraph on a topic. It actually browses multiple sources, synthesizes them, and returns something closer to a research brief. For anyone doing competitive analysis, content research, or market research, this is legitimately impressive. The weakness is consistency. Gemini can be brilliant one day and oddly shallow the next. That unpredictability is frustrating when you're depending on it for serious work. Round 2. Verdict. Broadest utility, ChatGPT. Deepest thinking and writing, Claude. Best for Google Workspace users, Gemini, and it's not close. Now, this matters for a big chunk of people, because $20 a month is not nothing. So which AI gives you the most without paying? Gemini is winning this round right now, and it's not particularly close. Google has been aggressive about keeping powerful features on the free tier. Large context windows, multimodal input, deep research access, because their real business model is keeping you inside the Google ecosystem. So they have an incentive to give you a lot for free. ChatGPT's free tier is still solid. GPT 4.0 access is available, which is genuinely impressive for no cost. But you'll hit limits fairly quickly if you're a heavy user, and the most exciting features tend to live behind the paywall. Claude's free plan is the most limited of the 3. It's generous enough to get a feel for the model, but heavy users, especially those working with long documents or complex tasks, will run into caps fast. Claude really reveals itself at the paid tier. So if budget is the primary factor, Gemini first, ChatGPT second, Claude third. But if you're willing to pay, Claude Pro arguably delivers more per dollar for serious knowledge work and tools than the others. Before we wrap, we need to talk about what's happening outside the top 3. Because 2026 is not just a 3-horse race anymore. Grok is built by xAI, Elon Musk's AI company, and it has a very specific personality. It's faster and less filtered than most models. It has real-time access to what's happening on X, which gives it a unique edge for tracking trends, breaking news, and public discourse. If you're a content creator, journalist, or social media strategist, Grok has a genuine use case. The trade-off is that the less filtered quality cuts both ways. It can feel refreshingly direct or frustratingly chaotic, depending on the task. But it has a real and growing audience, and it's not going away. DeepSeek is arguably the most important AI story of the past year that didn't come from a Silicon Valley lab. The Chinese company released models that matched, and in some benchmarks, beat GPT-4 level performance at a fraction of the cost. That forced a serious reckoning across the industry. For developers and technical users especially, DeepSeek offers strong coding and reasoning capabilities at near zero cost. The concerns are real too. Data privacy and geopolitical risk are legitimate considerations. But DeepSeek proved something important. The idea that cutting-edge AI requires OpenAI-level resources is no longer true. And that changes the economics of this entire industry. All right, here's the honest breakdown. Use ChatGPT if you want one tool that handles the widest range of tasks without needing to think too hard about which AI to use. It's the safest default for most people, especially beginners. Use Claude if your work involves serious writing, complex analysis, coding, or long documents. If you care about the quality of thinking in your output, not just the speed, Claude is the one. Use Gemini if you live inside Google Workspace. The integration advantage is real, and the free tier is genuinely impressive. It's becoming the default for a huge number of professionals who just want AI woven into tools they already use. Use Grok if you need real-time information, trend tracking, or an AI that's less cautious about edgy conversations. Use DeepSeek if you're a developer or technical user who wants serious capability without the price tag. And here's the real secret that most comparisons miss. The best AI users in 2026 aren't loyal to one tool. They're using Gemini for fast research, Claude for refined thinking and writing, ChatGPT for execution and breadth. It's a toolkit, not a religion. So here's where we land. There is no perfect AI. ChatGPT is the polished all-rounder that almost everyone can use immediately. Claude is the precision tool that makes serious work better. Gemini is the productivity future for anyone already inside Google's world. And the gap between them is closing faster than any of these companies would like to admit. What that means for you is actually good news. There's never been a better time to figure out which of these tools fits your actual life. Because they're all good enough now that the question isn't which AI is smart enough. It's which AI fits how I think, what I do, and where I work. Figure that out, and you'll get more out of AI in a week than most people get in a year. So tell me, which one are you actually using? And more importantly, has your answer changed in the last 6 months? Drop it in the comments. I read them all. And if this helped you cut through the noise, subscribe, because this landscape is shifting fast, and we're going to keep tracking it together.